This episode is brought to you by Flex Dealer. Hey, auto industry, welcome to this episode of the Dealer Playbook Podcast. We're here at the Toronto International Auto Show. If you haven't noticed, I'm not sitting in the studio right now. We are live with my pal, Christine Mitchell. She's the owner. She's the car lady.
I'm the car lady.
You're the car lady, and you just reminded me it's been 8 years since we've done this last.
Yeah, the last time we did this, we talked a lot about women's car care clinics. Of course, still hosting those all the time. But yeah, it's been a long time. I was long blonde back then, and I changed my look up, and I'm still as enthusiastic about the car business as
We've
ever.
both changed our hair.
Yes,
you
indeed.
know, because I used to not, well, I still didn't have any, but I didn't have any here either. As my kids say, I look like Franklin the Turtle back then, 8 years ago. You, as we were chatting pre-show, you brought up a couple of things that struck a chord in me that I wanna just pick your brain on. And I'm going to start it this way. My little daughter, Aria,
Yes.
when she's now almost 12, when she was 7, we were standing in church and she tugs on my jacket and I look down and she says, "Dad," in these exact words, no exaggeration, "what do I need to learn to take over your company one day?" I have a 15-year-old boy
Yes.
and a 14-year-old boy who I'm convinced still want to be Ninja Turtles when they grow up.
But she knew what she wanted.
And still knows what she wants.
Good
like
for her.
she goes after, there's a tenacity in her that and an observance in her that has heightened my awareness
Right.
of what I think we have done a gross misservice to in our industry. And you brought this up, and I want to just turn it over to you and say, from your vantage point, from your perspective, building business in our industry, what do we do about this topic, this issue of women in automotive, and helping show them or demonstrate that this is a career that they can grow and that we need them and want them in this industry?
Well, that's an interesting question because I have a daughter myself and I would love her to take over my company. I've begged and cried and pleaded 100 different times. But she said to me, "Mom, you cast a big shadow. You are the car lady. I don't want to have to spend my adult career having to look over my shoulder and have everybody say, 'Hey, where's your mom? Where's your mom?'" So she's working for a marketing team at the Ivy School of Business now. I couldn't be any more proud of her. But women in automotive, I get asked this question all the time because I've been at this a very long time, right? I got in this career when I was 16. It's been 27 years. And I think the conversation needs to start, particularly on the retail side, because I always come at it from a retail perspective. I think the conversation needs to start from the top and how it trickles down. Because I get invited, of course, to a lot of different things, International Women's Day speaking events and conferences, and I find the room tends to be either upper management and or vendors, but we don't get a lot of the people who have the actual boots on the ground in the retail side at these events. Because when I call a dealership and when you phone a dealership, Mike, the person who answers the phone is usually the first line of contact. And how do we empower those people are the conversations that I'm particularly interested in. Right. I want to know how we can advance the women we currently have into roles that will move them into upper management, providing with training, mentorship, sponsorship, etc., to give them the opportunity because they've obviously have a liking for the car business at some point. And I want to just make sure that we're not just keep recruiting, but we're actually empowering, educating, and fulfilling the goals, education-wise and career-wise, of other women that are currently in our industry.
Yeah, it's what I'm hearing is let's show them what's possible.
Right.
We often talk about how the auto industry, most of us who did kind of a trust fall backwards into this space and never left, how retail automotive in particular has no ceiling, but it has no floor also.
Right.
But we don't do a great job at demonstrating the no ceiling part and that you can
And I get asked this all the time, right? Because people want to know. I've been in the car business my entire life. I got in the industry at 16. Back in the day where you could write a 365 in the morning and get your license in the afternoon, I got my license the same day because I was working at a car dealership in the lube lane, and I had to be able to drive the cars. So I started really early, but the most popular question I get in regards to that, people want to know, again, not only the backstory, but did I have another person in the business for me? Am I a PhD? Did I, means Papa has dealership. Yeah. Did I have any experienced older brothers, dads, uncles that were already in the car business? No, I fell like you into the car business because I loved the industry. And I still, after all these years, get so excited when I'm teaching my Know Your Car Night events to meet somebody who's a first-time buyer. There's no, when you're a first-time buyer, the world's your oyster, right? I always think of it as being the first taste of real freedom. It's the time you can drive to see my friend Mike in Texas if you want,
right?
Because you got a car.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's such joy in that, and that's why I got into the business because I loved the vehicles and I loved the freedom that cars bring to you.
Hey, does your marketing agency suck? Listen, before we hop back into this episode, I know you know me as the host of the Dealer Playbook, but did you also know that I'm the CEO of Flex Dealer, an agency that's helping dealers capture better quality leads from local SEO and hyper-targeted ads that convert? So if you want to sell more cars and finally have a partner that's in it with you that doesn't suck, visit flexdealer.com. Let's hop back into this episode.
You might be the only other person that's articulated for us on the show that the liberating utility that a vehicle is.
Oh, there's nothing like it. There's nothing, I grew up, my mom didn't have a car, never got her license till she was in her 40s after my parents separated. So during that time, mom brought home all the groceries by bundle buggy or remember the bundle buggy? She brought home groceries on the bus. When I got my first car, I was working at Jack McGee's in Peterborough, my first job, and my mom co-signed for me. I bought a 1987 Chevy Sprint, the 3-cylinder, and my payments were $146 a month. And my mom got in the car, and it was the first time she knew that she wasn't going to have to walk on a February day in Peterborough in the winter with our groceries because I had a car and I could drive. We were so excited. They let me drive it out of the showroom by myself. I got mom in the car. We were so excited. We got on Clonsilla Avenue there in Peterborough and went through a stop sign. We were so distracted with our own joy of having a car. The little Chevy Sprint.
Isn't that
I named Ian because I name all my cars.
And what's your car now named?
So now I have a Highlander and her name is Haven for Safe Haven.
Oh.
The last one was Mr. Charlie Lexus.
Wow.
I've had a lot of different vehicles, but Haven is a great car.
I don't know if this must be a common practice where people, because we name our vehicles.
Yeah.
Like our Sierra was the Ciarello because it's the Michael Ciarello vehicle.
I had
Ian.
Lola Corolla.
I love that these are like real names. I'm like trying to find the most foolish sounding name. You're like, meet Ian.
Yeah, Ian the Sprint, Lola Corolla. Yeah, they've all been good vehicles. But because of where I live, I don't know if you know this, but I actually live in Port Elgin, which is about 2.5 hours from the city. And I spend a lot of time in a car.
Sure.
And I have to have safety, security, and I have to really enjoy the ride. And I love being in the car by myself. It's 2 hours apiece. I roll a lot of calls. I listen to Howard Stern.
No.
Just think about what I'm going to do next. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Over your career, from your vantage point, as you look back, the passion you have is passion that's developed, not just like installed, right?
Right.
Like I can't just say, okay, car lady, install your passion level on these individuals.
Right.
What are the pit stops along the way that you can think of where you're like, oh, whoa, okay, I love this industry?
Yeah. Well, I started the business because I was expecting and I had to get out of the shop. So I went to the library and used Windows 97 and AOL to make the worst looking flyers you've ever seen in your life and went dealership to dealership. But the passion for growing the business part of it came because I was a single mom with a daughter to feed. And I drove from I was living in Mildmay and now Port Elgin, but I drove those miles because I knew I could make Toronto money
Right.
and drag it home, right? Because
Sure.
you could buy the biggest house in my village at that point for like 300,000. But again, it was still always about working in the car business. I've never considered doing anything else.
Sure.
And I really like the part when I'm teaching my event, whether it's a first-time buyer or the sixth-time buyer, I know that I'm bringing a value to the dealer because those customers are going to remember me and remember the service they got at that store. You know, my second question during the seminar I ask is, how many of you were surprised to be invited tonight? And I get about 75% of the hands in the room.
Wow.
Because they've never either been invited or been to one before.
Wow.
And they want the opportunity to be thanked for their purchase. They've spent a lot of money, second largest investment next to your home. And they want the opportunity to learn now. And it used to be the seminars were more about just maintenance, but now I spend a lot more time with technology, of course. And I spend a lot more time with connectivity pieces and a lot more time with safety systems for sure.
There's something so brilliant in this because those of us that live in the tech bubble tend to, our bias tends to lead us to believe that everyone just knows technology.
Yeah, they don't.
And here you are putting on events, focusing on technology, filling these dealerships with people who have no, not to sound demeaning, but have no clue.
Yeah,
who want to know.
Well, think about the last time you took delivery of a vehicle. When, again, pre-podcast tonight, we had a little conversation. One of the people in the room mentioned that they were buying a car. It took them 9 hours at the dealer just to buy the car.
Yes.
Okay, imagine how long the delivery process takes.
Yes.
Like there's so much information now. By the time you get them connected to the branded app and you set up any connectivity piece like a Starlink or an OnStar, you get the phone paired. You know, today's vehicles, particularly if you bought an EV, the delivery takes so long, people don't have the bandwidth for it. And then you try to think, then you, as a dealer, you'd love for that salesperson to walk Mr. and Mrs. Customer back to the service department and book their first appointment and introduce them to the service manager. But you and I, Mike, both know that that's very rarely going to happen because they've just run out of capacity at that point, right? And so that's where we bridge that gap. Know Your Car Night bridges the gap between the delivery and the service and to counteract anything that may have gotten missed during that delivery. And technology is now a huge piece of that.
I can only imagine putting on an event like this demonstrates also for the people who work at that store how much actual extra effort needs to go in post-sale to maintain the relationship.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously in the marketing world, sales and marketing, it's, you know, high funnel, mid funnel, low funnel, forget about them. Send them a birthday, message. Right. But you've tapped into something that I think is really important here, which is then there is loyalty,
correct,
ambassadorship, referrals, and then by the time we've completed that, they're ready to buy their next vehicle again.
Absolutely. And people who attend the event are 87% more likely to service with that dealership in the next 4 years. Just for maintenance alone. So if people understand how maintenance works and the benefits and the advantages of servicing with the dealer, it keeps them out of the big red triangle store and out of the store that sells the big packages of toilet paper. I got quoted once in an article that said, the car lady says, don't buy winter tires where you buy frozen shrimp. And I thought that, yep, absolutely, right? Go to your dealer. I think people think that the dealer is still in their minds, more money. Right. But there is a lot of things to be said about the retention piece. And that's why, and they want to be thanked for their purchase, frankly. They don't want a birthday card. They want to be thanked for their purchase. They've made a big investment and they're investing in you. And if you don't build that customer for life, frankly, there's a lot of options where they can take that vehicle now. And if you don't get them back for the first couple services, any marketer will tell you they're in the wind.
I just have to point out here. She said the big red triangle store.
Yes.
Off camera here, we have Emer, who this is his first time in Canada. Well, it's my show. I can say whatever I want. She's referring to Canadian Tire.
Yeah, and don't write me letters. I love Canadian Tire as much as the next person.
I have to take Emer to a Canadian Tire.
Yeah.
Just so he can experience what it's like to be in a Cabela's meets Zellers meets Target meets, I don't even know how you would explain it at this point, but Emer loves the gadgets and gizmos and the tools and the this and the that.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
We don't do a great job at encouraging these individuals who've, to your point, made their second largest purchase,
Yeah.
who chose me, which is so flattering.
Yeah, they have a whole row of dealerships on
And
that
now I'm
lane.
just
They
gonna
could have
let
picked from
them-
anybody. They picked you.
They picked you.
So now they've spent 5 hours in your showroom. How do you get them back for the next 4 years? How do you get them back for the next 4 years? Even something as simple as retail detail. Does your dealership offer detailing? Right? How do you get that customer to buy a gift certificate for somebody in their family to come back to your facility? You host a Know Your Car night. You
Right.
get them in, and all the little tips we do, like right now, where for something as simple as stop overfilling your gas tank.
Yeah.
Right? Ruins the charcoal canister assembly system of the vehicle. People are like, oh gosh, the light bulbs come on. And that's
I
where
was
I
like,
get
what?
my passion from. That's what keeps me driving and smiling as I head home on the highway, because I know I made a difference for somebody today. I taught them something they didn't know before.
You said something pre-show that I want to pick up on here as you've just said this, which is like, it's 2025.
Right.
Why are people still having negative experiences with car dealerships? And I'm seeing a thread here, which is, well, because if they don't know these things,
Yeah.
then human nature expects that you sold me something perfect. And then when that thing is not perfect, what do? I go, yeah, they're just out to get me.
Yeah, it's
See, it was all a
interesting.
ploy to just get
McDonald's
me.
screws up your order, you keep going back to that drive-through. But if a Chevrolet dealership screws up your order, you'll tell everybody about it. That's
Right.
why the event can also be a sounding board for people who just want to be heard, right? I never would, say that I work for the manufacturer. I don't. I work for myself. But I want to be the ear, and they want to be empathized with.
Sure.
And it's interesting, when you're selling the car, that's typically their first experience, how little some of the salespeople know about now the service of that vehicle. There's a great opportunity for education to educate your sales team on what's going to happen in the next 4 years so that you can build a book of business. I always say to this dealers, use this as an opportunity to sell more cars. I remember when I sold cars for a very short period of time, my sales manager was always after me to say, are you followed up on that guy with that? Have you followed up with him on that? Have you followed up with her on that? And I was running out of reasons to call.
Sure.
And so I always encourage my stores to use Know Your Car Night as an opportunity to get them back into the building without asking them for a nickel, to build relationships and trust. Let me earn your business and trust today. Even though you haven't made a decision on that new Denali, why don't you join us for Know Your Car Night? Come and learn about us as a dealership. Let me earn your business and trust. Because to your point, people, when they take the vehicle home, they want it to be perfect. And everybody wants it to be perfect, but life gets in the way. And you want to make sure you're proactive with that.
I know you've thought about this, but I'm having a bunch of aha moments right now,
Well, you can always have me back on.
which is the tie-in back to recruiting,
Yeah.
retaining, and growing talent.
Right.
Nobody wants to work for a loser organization.
Right.
But when it becomes real for the individuals that are there, that this is a place of winning and authority
Yeah.
and
culture.
retention and culture,
Yeah.
then I want to stay. It triggers something inside of me that I want to show up and contribute to the win, not be a detractor from it.
Right.
What are you seeing as you've now done this, from coast to coast? The bearing on morale and culture inside of the dealership.
Yeah, well, there's not the ups anymore that there used to be, right? Particularly on the sales side. So most of it comes from a digital space now, and everyone is sort of working from this digital space. But I think the best dealerships that have the best culture, again, it does start from the top, but it radiates through every department. And I'm in a lot of retail stores every single week and get to meet a lot of really, really great people who are just diamonds waiting to be polished. I get asked a lot, like I said earlier, a lot of the women I know get asked to be participants in a lot of these conferences. The diamonds are in your store. You just got to harvest them a little bit. right? And don't be busy, be productive and proactive, right? Because you can get stuck in the minutia, right? We got to sell more cars. We got to sell more cars. We got to service more cars, right? That's why service advisors, there's a great example, right? Service advisor, I always think is the busiest person in the dealership. And there's an excellent opportunity there because they want them to do the walk around, but they've got 10 people standing in line behind them. So streamlining systems, building opportunities for those people to empower those people. Yeah. That's where you're going to make your most money. The culture of the store. It's not just pizza day. It's just, I'll tell you a story.
Or pizza day at all.
You know, like a man named Amin Dajani. He's with the Waynes Group.
Yes. Yep,
the first time I ever met him, he was the general manager at Don Valley North Toyota. And I had come in for the meeting. And Amin Dajani was the general manager at Don Valley North Toyota in the time. And I didn't know who he was except from his picture on the website. And a man was out in the parking lot picking up trash from the parking lot. And it was Amin Dajani. And I had said to him, I'm going in for a meeting. And he goes, Christine, you're meeting with me. And I was so surprised, but it was started from the top. And that's why people like that are going to continue to be successful. That's why he would be a mentor to me, because he sees the problem, fixes the problem, not afraid to get dirty, not afraid to be too busy, but want to be part of the culture. Monkey see, monkey do. Watch me do, watch me do, watch me do. Learn from me, learn from me. And that's how you do it.
I mean, what a leadership lesson. There's multiple leadership lessons built into that. You never forget it. Now I hope those that are tuning in don't forget it. Emer and I have walked into dealerships where there's half open boxes and popcorn on the floor and a dirty popcorn machine.
And go into your ladies' room, everybody. Go into the ladies' room of your dealership, because sometimes they're a disaster. And the management is typically, I don't want to be stereotypical, but sometimes you have a service manager, you have a gentleman, they may be male. And they never walk into the ladies' room. If I walk into the ladies' room of a dealership and there's no paper in there and the soap doesn't work and the counter's all wet when I put my purse down, now I'm annoyed. Right? Check the ladies' room, everybody.
It's in the details, isn't it?
Devil's in the details, for sure.
Devil's in the details. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. This has been so enlightening. Definitely would love to have you back on. How can those listening and watching connect with you?
You can find me at thecarlady.ca. You can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook, The Car Lady Canada.
Christine Mitchell, thanks so much for joining me on the Dealer Playbook.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Dealer Playbook podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please subscribe, share, and hit that like button. You can also join us and the DPB community on social media. Check back next week for a new Dealer Playbook episode. Thanks so much for joining.